Tuesday, March 16th, 2021 at 6:30. And this is a meeting of the advisory committee. First item on our agenda is we have some time scheduled with our 3 school committee representatives. So I actually thought it would be helpful maybe just for everybody to go around and identify themselves. So, obviously I'm Brian Boyle. I'm a member of the Bolton Advisory Committee. And why don't we do advisory members first, just going in alphabetical order by last name.
That's a pretty complicated way. I'm Andrew. I don't know if I'm next alphabetically or not, but I'm a member of the advisory committee and I live on Main Street in Bolton.
Okay, well, I'll go. I'm Bob Guerrero, also on the advisory committee. New to the advisory committee. This is my first time through this whole process.
Oh, Omid, I don't know if you can unmute yourself. And just introduce yourself briefly. Thanks.
And just introduce yourself briefly. Thanks.
Sorry guys, I just came back in.
Okay, and then Craig.
Hey, Craig.
Okay, and then Craig.
Bill, you're up next.
Bill
Bill,
Nichols.
you're up next.
I'm new to the advisory
Bill
committee
Nichols.
and live on
New
Von Hill.
to the advisory committee.
And if everybody else can mute, I think that will help with the feedback.
And if everybody else can mute, I think.
All right, school committee members.
Well, we do things.
All this time I was on mute. I introduced myself silently.
Yeah. No, we heard you. We heard. But on school committee, we do things a little bit differently. We go reverse alphabetical by astrological sign. So I'll go first. Michael Horish, Bolton school committee member.
Guess I'll go Mary McCarthy, Bolton School Committee member.
Yeah, and I'm Amy Cohen. I am the newest Bolton School Committee member. So this is also my first time through the whole budgeting process, and I'm eager to learn, especially from the town's perspective.
Thank you. And Don Lowe is our trusty town administrator. Really appreciate him being here. And I know also it looks like one member of our board of selectmen, Bob Zakansky, has dialed in as well. So thank you all very much. So I think our main objective is to try to get off to a really good start for FY23, acknowledging that the past year was a very challenging budget season from the school district's perspective. And we're aware that there are some constraints that you guys are dealing with where you're maybe not even sure what the final outcome is going to be of some of the budget decisions that were made. So I think we'd like to try to do a little bit of historical looking back in time as a way of coming to some mutual understanding of the town's situation. And also, I really want to try to create an atmosphere in general where people feel like it's okay to ask questions. I just want to acknowledge that as a school committee member, your purview is obviously the budget is part of it, but you have so much else on your plate. And so it would be unreasonable to expect every member of a school committee to also be like doing super deep dives into the finances and budget stuff. But to the extent that we can be a resource or a sounding board or whatever, we really want to be able to do that, especially going forward. I didn't know if anybody else wanted to add anything before I have some things that I was going to share on my screen as a way of providing some common orientation. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I would just say that I can speak for myself, but I also feel like I might be able to speak for Amy and Mary when I say that we've been looking forward to this. This is my third budget season, and I really like the fact that we are starting to look ahead to FY22 exactly a year out. I think that there are opportunities here where this actually has served as a model for the other two towns. Once they caught wind that we were doing this sort of thing, then I think other either school committee members or town administrators from Lancaster and Stowe have also looked into this. And I think from my perspective, I'm coming into this to be as informed as possible so that when things do come up in the budget season, I have that context, and that's really what I'm looking for. So I think my personal goal is I would like to learn as much as possible what's happening from the town's perspective, and I'm also willing to reciprocate and offer as much as I can from the district perspective.
Great, thank you. All right, so what I'll do is I'm going to share my screen, and people should feel free to jump in with questions at any point. There's a few different things that I kind of want to go through, so bear with me. The technology can be tough.
Brian,
Yes.
Brian,
Yep.
this is Ann. It would be helpful. We don't get everybody on the screen. It would be helpful if people would identify themselves when they speak.
Yes, great point. Yeah, so if you do have a
Could
comment.
that be done? Okay.
You can
I only
your-
have like 9
gallery
windows,
view.
so
If you change your
I don't
gallery
hear
view
everybody.
on the
That's
upper
really
right corner to gallery, it'll pack in a lot of people at once. I think it'll pack in up to, well, certainly as many people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look for that. You never know. I was in tech all those years.
Okay, so can everybody see the document that I'm sharing here? We'll only spend a minute on this. I just want, I think for the school committee members, some of this stuff might be new information for you to just understand how we build our budget. So what you're looking at here is the FY 2021 levy limit, and that's something that is certified by the Department of Revenue. And you can just remember that number, 22.4 million. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull open another spreadsheet that gives you an illustration of what happens to that number. So magnify this a little bit. So you should recognize the cell that I've highlighted right there is that 22.4 million, which was that levy limit. Now, when we're building our FY22, which is our current fiscal year, or the fiscal year we're about to go into in July, when we're building that budget, we are allowed by virtue of Prop 2.5 to assume 2.5% growth in that levy limit. And so this cell right here shows, you can see the formula. You basically just take the levy limit that was certified and you can multiply by 1.025. This shows you how much your levy limit can grow under Prop 2.5. And then what I've done here is I took last year's Nashoba total assessment just to illustrate a few things. So last year's assessment, not the one that you voted on last Wednesday, but a year ago, was 15.8 million. And what I've done down here is just shown you how if you assume different percentage increases in our assessment, this is what the actual dollar amount of that assessment would be. And then over here shows you what percent of our Prop 2.5 growth is consumed by the Nashoba assessment. And so you can see like a 3.5% increase in our assessment would essentially eat up the entire Prop 2.5 levy limit growth. A 4% increase is we're eating up more than what we're getting through Prop 2.5 growth. And the reason I wanted to mention this is because I know that at last week's meeting, somebody, I don't think that they were from Bolton, but made a comment that, you know, Bolton and Lancaster should just assume something like 4% growth every year. And what I'm trying to show you is that, like, at least within the constraints of Prop 2.5, 4% assessment growth every year is essentially giving us nothing within Prop 2.5 to spend on town, like, non-education municipal services. So that's just a little bit of the math. And then what I did on this side of the spreadsheet was just to illustrate some historical information. Whoops, sorry. Right here, you've got 10 years worth of fiscal year history. This is our total operating budget that's approved at town meeting every year. So that's the town of Bolton plus education. And over the 10 years, our town's total operating budget has increased at 33.5%. This backs out the Nashoba assessment. So this 11 million is within that 18, but it shows that the assessment within the same 10-year time span has increased 43.25%. And as a percentage of the town's operating budget, it has also increased. So back in 2011, it was like roughly 58% of our total operating budget. Now it's 62.5% of our operating budget. And I mentioned that too, because there were some comments that were made last week about how Bolton isn't investing sufficiently. And just in terms of facts, like, our investment in the education portion of our budget has increased virtually every year. And then this takes basically 2 periods of time, fiscal year 2011 and fiscal year 2021. So snapshot 10 years apart. So these numbers should look familiar. Nashoba has increased as a percentage of our total operating budget. You'll see here average tax bills for the 3-member towns. Bolton's average tax bill was highest 10 years ago and continues to be highest of the 3-member towns. And then this was the other thing that I really wanted to just make sure everybody was aware of. So Bolton's total operating budget, as we saw on the previous slide, has increased 33.5% over the past 10 years. The non-Nashoba spending increase has been only 20%. So when you back out what the Nashoba assessment is, basically everything else in the town has increased at a lower rate than what our education has increased. I'm going to stop sharing this for now. I can put it back up. The only reason why I'm going through those numbers is because I think, quite frankly, it's probably something a lot of people haven't realized, just in terms of the pressure that the assessment puts on Bolton's ability to spend on really anything else. Oh, and actually, sorry, I did want to just show wanted to point out one other thing. So over that same 10-year period, total enrollment for the district has decreased. So back in 2011, it was like roughly 3,250. Now it's just over 3,000. And one of the things I had wondered about, and maybe it's something that you guys can ask, is just, it would be interesting to know how the total full-time equivalent employee number has changed over that 10-year period, just to see, like, has the number of heads within the staff grown at about the same rate as the assessment? Sorry, was there a question from Don Lowe? I think you're muted. Oh.
No, someone was outside my window waving to me, Brian, and I waved back. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so I can stop sharing. But that's just one of the reasons why there have been some, like, recently Bolton has tried to be really disciplined in what our assessment can be, because there's not really much more room to go unless the community as a whole wanted to explore essentially increasing our tax capacity through an override, which is a discussion that certainly I have never been part of. Anyway, that's a lot of information. So I'll stop talking now and get reactions and comments. Amy?
Yeah, I want to thank you for that presentation. It was very, very informative and eye-opening and helped me understand the town's perspective a lot better. In terms of the pressure, I think your words were the pressure that the school's assessment puts on Bolton's ability to spend on anything else, being driven by the Prop 2.5 limit. I've heard people talk about it, but now I have a much better understanding of how that all works. But, you know, through the budget meetings that I've participated in on the school committee just this year, I guess I've gotten a better understanding about what factors drive the assessment on Bolton from the school's point of view. And I think I'm curious as to the town's understanding of what factors influence that. Because my understanding is that a lot of it comes down to, well, I don't know if a lot of it, but certainly one thing that affects it is the state's determination of Bolton's minimum contribution. And that has to do with the wealth factor of the town, which is related to the housing value. And, you know, when you do start to drill down on some of these things, it does get complicated.
Yep.
So I don't know if you can talk about that at all.
Sure. Actually, it might be helpful for me to share that spreadsheet again. Hold on, let me just see. God, you guys are going to be like, this dude is such a nerd. Why is he making all these spreadsheets? Okay. So what Amy was sort of alluding to is that when any member of the school district gets an assessment, right, there's like let's just use FY18 as an example. There's the total assessment, right? But that total assessment really has two components. There's the fixed assessment, which I've put here. I call it H1 because that's usually determined. It's based off of a number generated by the state, based on a very complicated formula, which has become even more complicated as a result of some of the education reform. But there's the fixed assessment, and then there is the variable assessment, which is, from what I can tell, basically the school district will take what its total fixed assessment is. So in this year it was 24.6 million. They figure out what they need total, and then they back out what the variable assessment has to be, and they multiply out based on the 5-year rolling average for the towns. And so over time, Bolton's fixed assessment has been increasing. So you can see, like, in FY18, Bolton's fixed assessment as a percentage was 32.94. And as of FY22, it's 34.76. So it's gone up as an overall share of the fixed assessment. The variable assessment basically always is going to reflect these numbers for the 3-member towns. And so that is a function of enrollment in it. And it's gone up a little bit, but not tremendously. And so to Amy's point, the fixed assessment calculation does involve something that's called the municipal wealth factor. But interestingly, I think that Bolton's the change in Bolton's fixed assessment is more attributable at the moment to the slight uptick in enrollment that Bolton has had relative to Stowe, for example. But the other thing that everyone should keep in mind is that to say that the state is requiring it, like this is the minimum required contribution. These variable assessment columns, this is basically like what the district has determined is needed above and beyond the foundation budget. And so to the extent that that variable assessment is within the control of the school committee, it's still like more than 40% of our, that variable portion is still, I think, more than 40% of the total assessment. So there's still, I would say, approximately 40% of that assessment number that's, you know, within the nominal control of the school district. Does that jive with what you've been, what your understanding is? Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, so this is a lot to take in. It's a good thing, but it's a lot to take in. I'm glad, really, really glad we're doing this. Just thank you again for initiating this. I haven't said this already. So 3 things. The comments that you heard at the school committee were made by an individual whose opinions do not necessarily reflect or represent those of everybody else on the committee. So they were standalone comments. It wasn't anything that there was a dialogue for, and then that person sort of gave this overarching opinion. Number 2, I wonder to what extent the district either knows this information or takes it into account when molding the budget, which effectively starts in, I think, the late spring or early summer. I mean, that starts very, very early on. And then the third thing, I'm sorry to pile it all on, it's kind of related to Amy. If you compare Bolton and Lancaster, at least this year, in the past few years, Bolton and Lancaster have been in a similar position in terms of their assessment and their limitations. Stowe is in a very different position. They've actually had a negative assessment in 2 of the past 3 years. So I would say in the very recent past, it feels to me like something very different is happening in Stowe than is happening in either Bolton or Lancaster. And we can set aside Lancaster because that doesn't really concern us. But you know, when I see Stowe, I think there's more commercial property, there's more commercial, there's a stronger commercial tax base for sure. Lot sizes are different, home values are different. So I guess to Amy's point, and I'm sorry if I'm being redundant, what are the things that are built into all of these limitations that we have that a neighboring town like Stowe simply doesn't have, at least over the past few years?
I don't think I can fully account for the situation that Stowe's facing, but I will say that I don't think that it is. I think if you look at Bolton's tax base and you divide it up like residential and then commercial and industrial and personal property, I actually think that both Bolton and Stowe are at approximately the same split. I think Bolton is approximately 93% residential and Stowe is about the same, at least based on 2018 numbers that are available on the state's website. I don't know if that's changed recently. I think that my best understanding of why Stowe's assessment has been negative in the past 2 out of 3 years is that because Stowe's overall enrollment has generally been higher for at least 10 years than the other 2 member towns, they had sort of like, they'd already been budgeting a certain size of the pie. And then when their enrollment started to tick down slightly, the calculation for their fixed assessment portion by the state dropped. And it ended up like, I don't think that their variable assessment has technically been dropping. I think it's really only the fixed assessment that dropped. in the past couple of years. But I don't know enough to say whether this is true, but I sort of think that the effect of that drop in enrollment may not persist like for the next few years. Like next year, it'll be interesting to see if it's different or not.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, it's a relatively recent phenomenon, but it sort of begs the question. So the suggestion that I've heard, and I don't endorse it because I frankly don't know enough to be able to form an opinion at this point, but that it's a combination of a lot of things, and it is sort of baked into the way that the two towns are planned and taxed differently. But to me, that feels like a long-term condition rather than a short-term condition. So that doesn't really make sense to me. That this is something that's been happening in Stowe for 10, 20, 30 years, and somehow Bolton is left deficient or negligent somehow. And I don't have an opinion either way, but I'm glad we're doing it. It's March, right? I'm glad we're doing this for next year, because that means I have a long, long time to build up my understanding. But those are some of the things that I want to understand.
Yep.
And we don't have to have the questions tonight, but those are definitely things that are kind of floating around in my head.
Yes, Dr. McCarthy.
So I too am grateful that we're having this discussion, and having lived in Bolton for, I was just doing the math, 46 years. Obviously I love Bolton, and I feel that that it needs to be said that we're all on the same, page in terms of appreciating Bolton and appreciating all that it offers. And with that, I think this kind of goes along with something that Mike was saying. In Bolton, we don't have that much industry or commercial properties that would be taxed at, let's say, a higher rate, which happens in other districts, in other towns, and certainly in cities. What we do have is a love of the land. We're a right to farm community, and we value that highly. And we value our families and our children and their education. So there's a collision course. We're on sort of a collision course in terms of finances with the town, which you laid out, Brian, so well and so concretely, that the town and the frustration that the town feels is justified in trying to move forward projects or really anything, because of how much of the budget the school district takes up. And yet on the school district's budget side, 80% of our budget has to do with salaries and all insurance and all of that put together. And a lot of that we really don't have control over. I know, Brian, you're asking about FTEs, and we can look into that, but we're also dictated to by legislation and in terms of special education, and this is something that all districts face. And one family with 3 or 4 children with special needs moves into a town, and there could be out of district placements, which are really, really expensive. It's the shame is that the state and the federal government don't do something more to be able to help out, because those children are definitely entitled to that education. But if we're just talking the numbers, it's really difficult to figure out how are we going to be able to include those children in what they need, and also look at what that is doing to the budget. So Proposition 2.5 override, at some point, it will probably happen. It will need to happen, but it would need to be with everyone's understanding and within parameters. And the other aspect I always think about this is, how can we creatively fund some things, because I tell you, when I first ran for school committee, which was 88, 89, 87, 87, I went around with my husband to every single home in Bolton. And but I found out you can't put flyers or anything if you don't do it through the mail. You can't put it in the mailboxes. So like taped it on, or put it near a mailbox, every single home. And that was a long time ago. But a lot of this still exists. The disparity between people, a lot of people in Bolton who just are enjoying a lot of wealth and beautiful property and homes, and then the people, the farmhouses that we went to and we saw, they might have some land, but living in some, you could just tell their level, their standard of living. So we have all those people in Bolton. And we need to think about, if we are increasing taxes, I mean, everybody will go, ouch, ouch, but there are some people for whom that's a real, it would be a terrible sacrifice. And we've seen before that increases in taxes can be forcing our seniors out of the place that they would like to still live in. So, I mean, it just seems to me there's a collision course. We can do as much on our side. It's not as if we don't understand. I mean, I like the detail that you brought, Brian, and I took pictures of all of it so that I have that, or maybe you could share that with us. But so to be able to understand in greater detail, but the overall understanding that we have is that the school district is taking up a tremendous amount of the town budget. And we look at the school committee budget and say, okay, we need to, whittle away any extras that we possibly can. But it's the big ticket items, and we're driven by salaries, and we have tremendous teachers, and they are part of a pool of educators who expect, some kind of an increase every year. And that's what they do in neighboring towns, so that if we fall too far behind, our reputation, the level of the education that we're able to provide will fall down. And the most important resource that we have, and I've said this before, I mean, I've got a teaching background, I was a principal, it's our teachers. And if anything this year the pandemic has taught us is how vital they are. There is no replacing the teachers. So we put our money, but also our trust, our appreciation, everything we can to be able to keep the teaching force and to be able to continue to attract the best possible teachers and administrators that we can. And that costs money. So that's going to be there. So I guess what I'm saying is I've watched over the years, and I've seen the goodwill of finance committee and advisory trying to find ways to be able to bring more money in. So administrators, town administrators, selectmen, grants, looking for industry to come in. Please come in. And then, we tax them at the same rate as residential, but still, if you'd come in, then we would have more money in the town. So I just see this as, are there creative things that we can do? Is there funding so that perhaps donations could be made? I'm not sure, but I don't know how far the school district can go in trying to bring the numbers down when the whole climate of education to have really good education. And we're not tops in this particular area, but we are considered that we have a very good education for whom? For our students, for your children, for your grandchildren, and also for the community. As part of being in a democracy, we want our young people to be as educated as possible. So, I mean, I'll stop. I'll get off the soapbox, but I just feel so bad that it seems as if it comes to sort of, just say a conflict of the town with the school, and we're all in this together, and we're not trying to make it so the town can move forward. And we see how everything is getting narrower and narrower in terms of any revenue for anything for the town. So what do we do together?
So I know Bill has a question or comment. I just want to quickly say that completely agree with a lot of the things you expressed. And one of the reasons why we want to kind of start this conversation and have it throughout the year is that there is inevitably going to be conflict or trade-offs, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a collision if we're talking the whole way through, and we can talk in advance about what those trade-offs might be and get a sense of what the community's priorities are. And so I think one of everybody's goals probably is if we can keep the lines of communication open through the whole year, then it won't feel like a big sort of disruption or surprise or conflict in like February, March. Sorry, Bill, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Since I'm new to this, what is the mechanism if the assessment does eat up all of the Prop 2.5?
Do you want to field that one, Nanachka?
There's two other pieces. So we also have debt exclusions and new growth. So those would help above 2.5. But if we were to exhaust those two resources, then we would have to go for an override.
And what is that override? Is that a petition to the Commonwealth, or what is that process like?
So it's a vote by the town. I think there's two votes. I think there's a town meeting vote, and then there's also a vote at the ballot. Don Lowe could correct me if I'm wrong about that.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right, Brian. There would have to be a vote at town meeting. Well, the budget would have to be presented and accepted, and then it would at town meeting, and then it would have to be approved on the ballot.
Okay, thank you.
Amy, did you have a question?
Well, I think one thing I'd like to avoid being in the position of next year when the school committee votes on a budget is voting to support a budget that I know is going to eliminate much needed staffing positions. So I think this is a goal of mine throughout the year to advocate for why, why an override might be in our future if there is really no other ways to generate revenue, or I'm kind of with Mary. I wouldn't necessarily call it a collision course, but I think people move to this town. I certainly chose to move to this town because of the reputation for excellent school districts. And last year, before I joined the school committee, I learned that 6 full-time equivalent positions were eliminated. And this year, 11 are full-time equivalent positions are on the, being considered for elimination. I'm not sure how that process will play out, but one thing that seems tricky is that we have to take a vote in March, and some of these things don't shake out until after we have to vote on the budget that has been worked out, with the towns. And so I'm kind of curious how that, I'd like to learn more about the process, and maybe we won't have time to do all of this tonight, but I am curious about how those conversations work between the towns and the school districts leading up to March. And maybe figuring out whether individual school committee representatives should be paying attention more to that process, so we can be better informed when we are taking our vote in March.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it is going to be a conversation that probably has to unfold in stages. Mike, I saw you had a hand up.
Yeah, a couple things, just to echo what Amy said. This year, I feel like, even though I voted to approve the district budget, it was really a vote for the town. And I'm certainly not looking for acknowledgement of that, but what it was not a vote to support the district this year. It was a vote because Bolton was in a position where we really, and for our sake, fortunately, Lancaster was in a similar position. But this, to me, did not feel like a vote to support our schools. It felt like more of a vote to support our town. And sometimes I suppose sometimes it's like that. But I think it's also worth saying that, this is wonderful, getting school committee members and town representatives and administrators together. But of course, the missing component is the actual architect of the district budget, which is the superintendent. So that budget gets crafted over the course of maybe 9 months. By the time it reaches us, it's really at its final stages and we approve it, right? So this informs me and helps me to be more knowledgeable of why the town finds itself in certain positions from year to year. But we don't, and maybe this isn't clear, but we don't build the budget, we simply approve it. And once we vote for that budget, then the budget is sort of ours to defend. But up until that point, of course, there's the budget and warrant subcommittee, and not by design. There just happened not to be a Bolton representative, and I'd like to personally see that change next year. I'd like to be on the budget and warrant committee subcommittee next year. But once the budget comes to us, I mean, that is really a lengthy process to build that up. And I am not sure to what extent the superintendent, whether it's the current superintendent or the future superintendent, has communication with this kind of organization of representatives from the town, and how it ties into building the final product that we ultimately vote on. I just don't know. But it may be worth pulling the future superintendent into these kinds of meetings to let them know. I just don't know what effect that will have.
No, I agree. I see sorry, Bob Zakansky has a raised hand too.
Hi, thank you. Well, Mike, you kind of touch on one interesting difference between the town and the schools. The budget process broadly starts with everyone submitting their budget requests and requests for capital articles like trucks and special projects to Don Lowe in October. And he puts together a package, which the advisory committee starts reviewing in January. They meet every week until the middle of March, and review it. Now, the budget the advisory committee is looking at is $7.5–8 million, Brian?
Yep.
Now, it's not a $50 million budget or a $55 million budget, but it's getting 2 to 3 hours of scrutiny every week. In contrast, my impression is the school district has a marathon Saturday budget presentation, and then decisions basically have to be made within a week or so after that. You know, even with the town budget and a small $8 million budget, some of the detail is mind numbing, and you really can't put up with it for more than a couple hours every week. But it's iterative. It takes bite-sized chunks instead of trying to swallow the whole thing in one weekend.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
So I had a comment. Does anybody recall the last time the school budget was simply rejected by 2 out of the 3 towns and you had to go back and figure it out again in the period of a few weeks? Because I have a suspicion that we're getting pretty close to that already. Maybe not this year.
I know that Lancaster has voted down the budget in previous years.
Yeah, but it takes
You
2
only
out of
need
3.
Yeah, you need 2 out of 3.
Right. So I suspect that we're looking at that, maybe not this year, but if you come back, I'm not speaking for the town, I'm not speaking for anybody but myself, but, or even, maybe not even myself, but if you come back next year and hand 2 out of the 3 towns a 6% budget increase, you're probably going to get a reject and start over, or at least start firing people in 2 weeks notice and stuff like that, and getting a new budget in time for our next special town meeting 2 weeks later, whatever, a month and a half later, whatever it was.
Well, then at that point, of course, you get 1/12 of a current budget until you've figured it out, until you've sorted it out.
I don't know about that.
Dr. McCarthy.
I'd just like to go back to the budget process. And Mike talked some of this, and our charge as school committee in approving the budget. Our other main charge as school committee is hiring, and in some cases, not in our case, firing of a superintendent, but that is really important along with budget and policy. So what we do is we hire a superintendent, and I've worked in other districts, and I can tell you that it's not the school committee that builds the budget. It is the superintendent with the superintendent's team. And now I've been part of that. For many years, I was part of that and saw that the numerous meetings that go on, very similar to what you're talking about in terms of the town and the scrutiny. And you have the people who have ownership of aspects of the budget being, you used to be, the first stage would be you get everything from the teachers that they feel that they really need. And so all those requests are put in, and to principals and to directors of different departments. And then those directors meet with the teachers or the people in the departments, and they come up with what they could reasonably support. And it means whittling down. These are stages that are not seen by everyone. It doesn't mean that it is not happening. It's just that this is part of what administration does. It's part of what I was part of, and we did. And then our superintendent's team would meet and again go through and make cuts and make cuts and make cuts. School committee isn't privy to all of those. And then finally ending up at the budget. But we go along with the town budget with the town guidelines of the time frame. And certainly our town administrator meets with the superintendent, and I hope will do so. I'm sure you will, Dawn, with the incoming superintendent on a monthly basis once the budget is passed. And it isn't just a weekend, so that all that other work has been done. And to tell you the truth, in other districts, I didn't see all of the people coming to school committee to present on a Saturday. I just want to say that right loud. I have never seen a school district require its administrators, principals, and facilitators. Anyway, all of the directors come in on a Saturday with school committee. I mean, we're volunteers. We're on like 24/7, for better or for worse. But it's the large sums of money that we receive, and I would like to say we don't get any. It's the satisfaction of being part of a democracy. However, it's not just that one weekend. That's a week. That Saturday is a day that I never saw that in other districts, and so that's part of it. So we're giving we're just not giving enough credit to the process that the district goes through. I was on budget and warrant committee last year. And we had meetings once a month, sometimes more. But once the budget is adopted, then we all get reports on a monthly basis as school committee. But there's a difference. There's a difference in the way the school is, and as I say, how many statutes that we are required by law. So it really what it comes down to, because we try to hire the best possible educators and administrators, and that's what we'll be looking for in a superintendent. someone who really understands, because a regional school district, the finances are more complex than a single district. And we need somebody who really understands that. And each town has different makeup, but I just feel that I have to speak up because there is a lot more that goes on in terms of the budget and the painful cuts that the principals and the directors had to make to be able to end up where we are now. We're not doing justice to what goes on. And if you look at other districts, you see that this is the way it is. I like what Amy's talking about, and Mike, that one of the things that we can do is to try to look more carefully and maybe ask more and more questions. That's something that the school committee is really good at, asking questions. If you've ever watched our school committee meetings that go on 3 and 4 hours sometimes, you know that we do that, and we can be more tuned into that. But it's not a question that there's a lot of surplus and that everything that anybody wants, they're getting with this huge amount of budget. It is so far from that, that it's an injustice to what the school district does to characterize it as just happening on a weekend.
No, I hear that. Sorry, Don Lowe, you had a comment.
I don't want to prolong this, Brian, because I know you're already over on the agenda time, but I just wanted to clarify something that was said earlier about what happens if a budget is rejected at town meeting. Couple of points. First of all, it's not just the school budget that would be rejected at town meeting. The school budget is one line item in the town budget. So if the school budget is rejected, the town budget is rejected, the whole budget is rejected because we don't have an approved budget. And if it's rejected because people have issues with the line item, which is education, then the school district has, I believe, 30 days to go back, regroup, and then represent a budget at town meeting. It could be the same budget, it could be a different budget. The law doesn't say they have to change it. They say they have to come back within 30 days and present another budget, which then may be approved or not approved. If a budget is not approved by June 30th, by the last day of that fiscal year, Mike is right to the extent that the school district would continue with a 1/12 operating budget based on that previous fiscal year. So in FY22, you have 1/12 of the operating budget from FY21, and the school district goes forward. That's not true for the town. We don't end up with a 1/12 budget. We have no budget. We don't have a budget. We have to lay off people all over the place. The law, we would have to maintain public safety. How we pay them is unknown. And the only required positions by law, as far as I know, are a chief of police and a town accountant. Town administrator gets laid off. And all non-public safety, we would have to keep some employees. I still don't know how to pay for it. We probably have to borrow, because that's probably the only way we could pay the bills, because we don't have a budget. But everybody else gets laid off, and they stay laid off until you have a budget. So I think it's important to understand that. We came close to that a few years ago, so I'm speaking from experience.
Thank you for clarifying that. And I hadn't noticed that we were a little bit over time, so I think we should try to wrap up. Bill, I saw your hand was raised.
I'm good, Brian. Thank you.
Okay. Well, okay, so I'm really grateful that everybody could be part of this tonight. I think there are a lot of opportunities ahead because there are going to be, with the changes, there's going to be natural avenues for conversations about these things. I know personally, I can say I'm happy to talk anytime to bounce ideas off of. I'm sure there's stuff we can all learn from you. And if one of the three of you ends up on the budget and warrant subcommittee, that would be fantastic. And I'd love to pick your brain about that. So anyway, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you for inviting us and starting this process, Brian. And I want to leave with a question for you, which is what can we do to help budgets, the budgeting process for Bolton? You know, please reach out if there is information you'd like or a question you have. You know, I'd like to extend the same offer to you. So.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thanks, everyone. This was very helpful.
Thank you.
Well, you guys can feel free to drop out. We're going to be just wrapping up some other items on our agenda. So thank you again. All right. So just collect my notes.
So Brian, do you need me for anything?
No, I think we're good with that. Oh, actually, really quickly. So the selectmen are having their final meeting next Thursday, and that'll be after the planning board has considered some of the changes to the planning articles, the zoning articles. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So we can talk about it later, but I think we'll want to move our advisory meeting to just jointly post it with the Board of Selectmen so we can vote on those zoning articles the same night. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Right.
Okay, so I think the first thing we were going to do was we needed to review some changes to the town treasurer and human resources budget. So let me just pull up our spreadsheet.
Brian, can I ask you really quickly?
Yeah.
If you're moving the meeting from Tuesday to Thursday, if you have any transfers for next week, how are you going to handle those? Did you want to post like at 6:30 and have multiple links, one for the selectmen merged portion and one for the advisory?
Yeah, I think if we have transfers that need to be voted on next week, we could do it. We could meet like 15 minutes before the selectmen.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. We'll go back to the town accountant. All right. So okay, yeah. So our town treasurer went back and looked at what her most recent requests for educational assistance were. And she believes that her original budget request is actually an underestimation of what actuals for FY22 will be. And so in this, we've moved the educational assistance line into human resources, which is what Bob Zakansky had suggested last time we met. And then the amount has increased by $3,040 to cover what she expects. And you'll see we also have a transfer request based on this year's actual education requests. So
And that 3840 is 2 times the current transfer request, if I recall correctly.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Anyway.
Brian, this is Ann. Is that aggregating all the requests from the department into one slot?
This is educational assistance for all town employees.
Right, so it's all been put in one account as opposed to be in various departments.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
It was always in one account.
Okay.
Yep.
Shows how much I remember.
It had just been up here under treasurer, I believe.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
So basically what we need is a motion to amend the human resources budget to reflect this so that it would be.
I will go ahead and make that motion, Brian. It's Ann.
I'll second that, Craig.
Okay. So it would be for a total human resources budget of $13,305. I'll do a roll call. Bob,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Omid,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
and I'm a yes too. Okay. Nanachka, that was it for treasurer, right?
Yes.
I know we have two different transfer requests later that we deal with, but I think for the budget, it was just that one change. All right, so now we wanted to consider our town accountant's request for additional software support funding. So Nanachka, can you remind us of what that is?
I'm back.
Yeah.
It was $2,490 for a piece of the software to scan invoices into our accounting system to have them attached to. So if you were to look up an invoice, you could pull up the PDF of the invoice. And it's a one-time fee.
Okay, so this total budget of 102,616 assumes the increase that you've requested.
Yes.
So
This
would
is
some,
what we had discussed like the first time through when we had sort of tabled it. Is that correct?
yep.
Yes, I think we wanted to see where we were at, and if we were in trouble, I would just push it off a year, but I feel like we could absorb it this year or next year.
This is Ann. I think it makes good sense. And what am I supposed to do? Basically say yes or
Yeah, make a motion to approve.
make a motion
the
to
revised.
approve? Sorry, my Robert rules are getting kind of rusty.
I
All
second.
right. Okay, great. Roll call. Bob,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Omid,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Sense.
All right.
Makes sense.
We also need to formally vote on the regional dispatch assessment, which Nanachka has confirmed is 199,500. So this is not a surprise number. This is what we've been seeing. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll move, we approve that for 199,500.
Second that.
Okay, roll call. Bob,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Omid,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
and Craig.
Aye.
Great.
Hey, Brian, who seconded that?
I seconded Omid.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on one second. I don't know why I just got paranoid that I wanted to like triple check the assessment because we're about to
Nothing wrong
vote.
with that.
We're about to vote on it. Okay.
So I have a just a question. So I did break out, you can see I broke out all those little tiny debt. I need to break out the excluded debt, but do you want me to just roll all the other stuff together, or do you like to see it?
I like it. I mean,
I think it's worthwhile seeing because we can see what we have obligated ourselves to and what it was for. Otherwise, we're apt to forget.
yeah. Okay, so I just pulled open the district's assessment and the total assessment is 16,317. Oh, actually, on their sheet, it says 623, Nanachka.
623.
Hold on a second, let me just. Where do I get the chat? Hold on.
Do you guys have the breakup? What all the funding requests is for?
Yeah, hold on one second.
So I think I pulled, I still haven't gotten a formal budget from the school. So I kind of just pulled this off of some meeting they presented.
So it's not really real.
So
Well, I
this,
mean, that's what they voted on. But
Presented.
well, so this, the link that I just sent, this is from the website of what they voted on Wednesday.
Okay.
And then
16,317,62.
I'm gonna, Omid, I heard your question, so I'm gonna share that. All right, can everybody see I'm on the district's website right now?
Yep.
So this was the packet for last week's budget meeting. The assessment is right here. So 16317,623. And then these are their budget drivers. So, well, I can't highlight it because it's not Excel, but this shows like the overall summary of the proposed FY22 budget. The different big categories. So there's insurance and benefits, obviously.
I still think it's not great that we weren't sent the budget, that we have to go to their website and pull it off ourselves.
Mhm.
One would think when they're looking for support, they would send it.
Everybody else has to send their budgets. I mean,
Wouldn't one?
But I'm going to change that number, okay, Nanachka?
so is there a formula in that spreadsheet?
No, this is a PDF.
No, I mean in the budget.
Oh, yeah, hold on a second.
I'm just curious why that did I just transpose a number?
In the requested column, it's correct. So it could be a spreadsheet error.
Oh yeah, you're right. For some reason, this looks like it's hard coded. Good catch, Bob. Yeah, right?
Oh, yep.
So if we just did. That works, right?
Okay, so because in order to get those debt numbers, I have to multiply them by the enrollment. Again, I'm not given any of these numbers. I have to make them myself.
Okay, but this is the right number.
Yes.
Yep, okay. So does somebody want to make a motion to approve? So this, sorry, just to recap, this is a 2.94% increase over last year's assessment. And actually, you know what? I should just pull that up again one more time so everyone can see. So over here, you can see where we are compared to the other two member towns. Lancaster's a 3.5% assessment increase, and Stowe's is a negative 0.42.
I hope that's not the same next year. I just feel like we're going to keep going in the, it just, I don't know. I know there's nothing we can do about it, but I just hope it looks a little more equitable next year.
Yeah. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the Nashoba School District budget?
I'll make that motion to approve the NRSD budget.
Okay.
Is this final approval, Brian, or are we still working on it?
No, this is final approval.
Does this counted all the funding that was come in with the federal aid that was approved?
Yeah, so from what I understand, based on what the discussion was last week, because I tried to listen into the school committee like last Wednesday night, this budget accounts for stuff that they are anticipating in FY22, but there's like the recently passed ARPA legislation, I think has a time horizon that's even longer than just one fiscal year. So I don't think that they've just like taken all that money and put it into 1 year. I don't think that they've made those decisions yet. And this budget reflects, they said, unspecified cuts of, I think, $1.2 million.
And Ryan, just so we're clear, not that it's going to go this way, but what does it mean for the advisory committee to not approve a budget item? It still goes to town meeting, right?
Yeah, so if we voted against this, or even if some of us voted against it, it would just show up in the warrant as there being a vote. It would, now if a majority of the advisory committee voted against this, then I think we wouldn't be able to finalize our town budget, which would be.
But that shows up as the budget as a whole, right? That doesn't, so what does it mean if we were to vote against a particular line item?
You can't.
Yeah.
Oh, so at the end of the day, we get one vote on the entire budget.
On the
Whether
entire
we like
school
it or
budget.
not.
Yep.
That's correct.
Okay.
So if we don't agree with this, we have.
It's
So there's
down
no
to
way
the
we
whole-
can send it back through the committee to the school, be like, hey, Town of Bolton's advisory committee doesn't accept this. They
doesn't
can't
matter.
do anything before the town vote.
No, it would just still go before the town. You know, we at town meeting, we could make a statement about what our reasons were. But it's not like the school committee would go back and reconsider anything. I mean,
The reason I'm asking is like, if we don't like it right now before we go to the town, because as Don said, like if we tell people like, hey, I didn't vote for it because of this, and people say like, okay, we're not going to vote for it, I don't want to shut down the rest of the town and everything else.
yeah. So, oh, go ahead, Ninotchka.
I was just going to say, unfortunately, we're given the budget almost to present to the town as part of ours. We don't really have any mechanism to say, we don't agree with this, please go back. That would be the town's mechanism to say no.
Well,
I think to Brian's point, it just shows that either we support it or we don't.
and just to give everybody full context. So like there were definitely conversations at the town administrator level with the owners of the budget on the district side, where initially this assessment was, initially they came and presented an assessment that was closer to like 4.6%. And the message that Bolton gave to them was, we cannot tolerate anything higher than a 3% this year. And so they went back and they revised. I think they got a similar message from Lancaster. They went back, revised, and then us getting the 2.94% reflects them going back to the drawing board a second time. And so I think like in good faith this year that this does reflect some give on their part. So, I mean, personally, I'm inclined to support this, especially because I think that hopefully tonight is the beginning of some more detailed conversations where our school committee reps also have like a much much more constant involvement in discussing these things with us, so that it's not sort of all coming at the end of the year.
I think that would be very helpful, because the way it comes
Sorry.
across, they've made assumptions that we'll just say fine.
Well, I'll second Craig's motion to approve.
Okay. All right, roll call. Oh, wait, you know what? We can have a discussion before we take a vote. Any other comments or questions?
One comment, Brian. I'm really surprised that their budget warrant committee doesn't include representation from all 3 towns. I mean, it's not like there's 8 towns involved.
I think it should be a requirement.
I think it should be too. I'm surprised it's not.
How do
I mean,
we
how do you
advance?
know it's, I mean, how do we know it's like benefit? Like everyone was like, yeah, let's just put it on Bolton. We don't know that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you, because
So,
it's
like-
sped up a little bit.
Yeah, like Bolton has no representation. I don't understand how even like the town administrator or anyone else let that go.
I don't think we
So,
have
like,
any say over it.
Yeah, so all of that. So the composition of the subcommittees is spelled out in a district agreement, and it doesn't, and from what I understand, it doesn't require that there be a member of each member town. Historically, it always had been, I think, just because like certain people were always interested in being on it. I'm quite sure that there will be somebody from Bolton on it this year.
Well, so this is where I'm going with it. Like, first of all, I don't buy the doctor's brief that like these people work so hard and stuff like that, and they showed up on a weekend. I work for the government and this is my job. I put billion-dollar and trillion-dollar budget and submit it to the president's office. So people coming in on a weekend to get budget, that is government business. They have to do that. You know, there's no like thing. It's just like there's smoke, they're throwing smoke toward us. So like, you know, we will be friendly. I get that part, right? But for right now, this is my question. There are a lot of students that are not getting support that they need. The school's spending money off the wazoo. As school committee can't do anything about it. The town administrator can't do anything about it. We go through legals and stuff like that. And the only way we can do that is to go through legal and things like that. But we're still paying it, adding it to this cost and everything else. And there's no action or reaction to fix those things or reduce the costs or spending or anything else. Like they're not answering to anyone. They're not answering to the school committee. They're not answering to the town administrator. So who are we answering to that we can control the budget and how they're spending it? Go ahead.
Nanachka, you have a comment?
My personal opinion in reading the regional school district agreement is that the audit advisory committee, and this is just my own personal opinion, could be more robust. I don't think it just means they get to look at the audit. Audit can mean many things, that they are looking at the financials, that they are, and the fact that it specifies one person from each town leads me to believe that was the mechanism to kind of not nitpick every budget, but to have some oversight. Because, you know, to their point, if they're not on the budget warrant subcommittee, they get presented the budget at the very end. Hey, we're cutting 1.2 million, but we don't, you know, we're just telling you now it's 11 teachers. It doesn't give them very much time to process as well. I mean, I felt like they were kind of in the same boat that we were in. And I just wonder if maybe that audit advisory committee becomes more robust.
Mm-hmm. Bob Zakansky.
Thank you. I had a conversation.
Even the dog has a say on this.
Yeah, she's protesting the higher taxes also.
Want to be more assertive.
That's right. She wants to be on the budget committee at the school, and
You do a good job.
Here. Right. So I lost my train of thought. And the Nachka's comment. I had a talk with, a couple of months ago with one of our prior representatives, not our current representative on the audit committee, but a prior one. And she related to me how in the course of doing more than just trying to pick who would do the audit, they got slapped down by the school committee. So yeah, I agree that reading the description of the audit committee seems to give it very wide purview, but there seems to be a big turf war over there, and you know, I don't know how else to describe it.
No, that's where I'm going with it. Like, we're literally signing a blank, like we're signing a check without knowing what's been almost spending on. And is it being spending properly? That's my thing. There's no check and balance. All government is built on check and balance. There's nothing right now with the Nashoba Valley School. There's no balance. There's no checking. There's no checking. Like, we can't use our audit committee. We can't ask for records. We can't do anything. And our own school committee is not even part of any of the budgets. So where's the balance? I'm like, how am I gonna say, yeah, I have 2 kids in the school. I want the best education. It's the only reason I moved to this town. So it like hurts to the point right now saying that I don't feel comfortable saying yes to that, because they didn't tell us anything, how this budget was built throughout the thing. And yet the town told them to ask to cut the budget, or what they have cut it is what we agree on or not.
So I agree with
My
the,
rant is over.
I agree with the concerns. I also, though, feel like we're so late in the process this year that we don't have a lot of choice. And I like Brian's initiative of, let's get involved in the process for FY23 much earlier and position ourselves next year so that maybe we're in a better position to make some serious changes.
I 100% agree. You have no idea how much it took me to not say anything.
Yeah, and I think it does get tricky. It does get tricky legally because of the way the Mass General Law assigns responsibility to the school committee versus us or the Board of Selectmen. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of value in building a good relationship, which can allow for like informal information sharing that as a technical matter, like they wouldn't necessarily have to give us, right? Like if we have a good relationship, we can probably get more like collaborative information over the course of the year. But I will just say there have been times like when we've requested some sort of specific information and we've gotten sort of legal responses about why that information isn't something that they're sharing. Sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Well, my observation is that the school district budgeting process is not only meant to keep the public out of it, it's meant to keep the school committee out of it. And unless there's a dramatic change in the way they go about their budgeting process, and I have no idea where that change could come from, that, you know, it's going to be left to us to just keep pounding away and pointing out the frustrations and the difficulties here. But the process as it's been in the past, and this isn't a Superintendent Clenchy issue. This goes way back before Superintendent Clenchy, is that it's almost proprietary information until they decide to make it public. And that's unfortunate. To me, it was a real eye-opener to see all the information that came forward in the Minuteman budget a couple of weeks ago. And I don't know why the current district can't do something similar.
Yep, I agree. Okay, so there's a motion, there's a second. I'm going to do a roll call. Bob.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Omid.
Aye.
Anne.
Aye.
Craig.
Aye.
Brian. Oh, that's me. Yeah.
Yoo-hoo. Will I answer for you, Brian?
Oh my God. Jeez. All right. I guess I'm a yes as well. Okay. Thanks, guys. God, it'll be so much fun when we can actually meet in person. I gotta tell you.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So I think the only other things that we need to vote on relate to debt. And so probably it would make sense to turn quickly to the articles tab. Do you agree with that, Nanachka? It's easier to look at it on the articles tab.
Sure.
Okay. So I think everybody is familiar at this point with what the various capital requests have been. One thing that I think we should probably just discuss is the fire truck, the big one. As you saw last week at the Board of Selectmen's meeting on the warrant, it's just to approve it, but we won't actually be incurring any borrowing costs this year. The DPW truck, we can afford to borrow that within Prop 2.5. We don't have to debt exclude it. And so one option would be if we wanted to pay down that debt sooner, instead of doing like a 5-year borrowing, we could actually split it into 2 years. So pay half in FY22 and half in FY23. So if you go into the, actually I'll go back here. No, sorry, I'll go over here.
I think it's easier to see in the expenditures tab.
Did it show both years?
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay, right. So what you'll see here is in the debt tab, this DPW truck, we would essentially be paying for it over the course of 2 years. But in this year, our payment would be the 57,500 principal and the 2,990 in interest. So are people on board with that approach to paying for the DPW truck?
What's the cost of borrowing?
Nanachka, what was the interest rate that you assumed?
I think we're estimating 2%, but Kristen got under 1% for the last ban. So it's not much, and some of our debt fell off. So I figured might as well pay a little bit down before we get that giant fire truck going.
Brian, how are we doing, or Nanachka, how are we doing overall? Like with our total, the total budget with what we expect to take in and total expense.
So yeah, great question. So
21.
You meant for FY22, right, Bob?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So as of right now, because like when we first started building this back in early January, we had sort of thought that that we would be borrowing for a portion of the big fire truck this year. So if we had done that, that would have been roughly $80,000 in principal and interest out the door in FY22. But because of the lead time, we won't see those borrowing costs in this budget. So we actually end up with $83,000 to the good between total expenditures and total revenue. And then in terms of our free cash, if we approve all of the spending articles on the warrant, including the capital requests, we use up $312,000 of our 660,000 certified free cash, leaving us with this as a balance. And then this is what our target has been. So we're basically right at the target.
And does that include the DPW truck in 2 years?
Yes.
Nanachka, I had a question.
Sure.
The numbers I just saw were like $55,000 a year, and you were saying 1 or 2% interest rates. But I thought I saw for a moment there, the numbers were, I guess, 2,300. So that's a little more reasonable, but it still seems kind of high given your.
So it's on the total borrowing, the 115,000.
after the first year, I assume 50 some odd of it would have been gone.
So that's just the interest for FY20.
Yeah, she hasn't
Okay.
plugged in interest for FY20.
Okay, we're good.
Um,
Sorry for my confusion.
no, that's good.
And then you can see on that debt tab, we do have, I think, do we have some, if you go all the way to the left, other way,
Oh, all the way to the left.
your other left. Nope.
Wait, what are you trying to show? And I'll know which one.
Column A.
That's it.
Oh. I thought we had debt coming off. Maybe it all came off this year. Okay. Never mind.
So actually, let's go back. Sorry, let's go back to expenditures because we can probably approve this. So the only capital item that we're borrowing for new in 2021 is the DPW truck. So it's in there. Everything else is things that were previously approved at town meeting. Nanachka, can you just remind me, the reason why these are highlighted in yellow is just because we haven't voted them, but not because there were any changes,
That's right. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we remembered what to approve.
Just to clarify, I was actually seeing a line with 8,000 on it, which of course is for the Taggart property.
Oh, you're seeing this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Okay. So would somebody like to make a motion to approve total debt service in the amount of $1,184,841?
I'll approve total debt service for $1,184,841. Almost a palindrome.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Omid, I second that.
Great. Okay, roll call. Bob.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Omid.
Aye.
Anne.
Aye.
Craig.
Aye.
And I'm yes as well. So Nanachko, do we have to approve the total budget, or is it just
You
might as
could.
well? Okay. So is there a motion to approve the total budget for $25,969,448? This is the total operating budget.
I'll move we approve the total operating budget, or the total budget for $25,969,448.
Oh, it's a big number.
That's a mouthful.
Second.
Okay. Bob.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Omid.
Aye.
Anne.
Aye.
Craig.
Aye.
And I'm a yes as well. Okay, I promise we'll be done in a half hour. Sorry. We do have, gosh, I'm gonna make sure I'm not forgetting anything. We have to go through the warrant and vote on each item. I'm hoping, I think pretty much everybody was able to dial into last week's selectmen's meeting. So I hope you heard the discussion, but people can ask questions as we go through. Can everyone see that?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Sorry, I'll try to make it bigger.
That's all right. The print is getting smaller and smaller the older I get.
Okay. So Article 1 is just accepting the annual reports. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll make
I
the
move.
motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, and then I think I can just say, is anybody opposed? Okay, so everybody, we can accept that one 6-0. All right. Article 2 is the unpaid bills for fiscal year 2019 and 2020. This was approved by the Board of Selectmen last week. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay. We have already approved the fiscal, we just approved the fiscal year operating budget. So these numbers,
I can get Jenny all those numbers tomorrow.
yeah, so what'll happen is we can formally vote on this at next Thursday's Board of Selectmen's meeting. So we'll pass over this for now. All right, is there a motion to approve Article 4, which is approving the spending limits of certain revolving fund accounts?
I'll move we approve Article 4.
I second that.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, great. Is there a motion to approve Article 5, which adds the town administrator as a required second signatory for expenditures from alternative life support of over $25,000?
I'll move we approve Article 5.
Did you say alternative life support?
Sorry, I meant advanced life support. Alien life forms, you know.
You never know when they show up in Bolton. They look like us, but they're not like us.
I'll second that.
Okay, great. Any opposed? Great. Okay, Article 6 is for wastewater treatment facility repairs. I just want to check out the funding sources again. Okay, yep. All right, so is there a motion to approve Article 6?
I move we approve Article 6.
I'll second that.
Oops.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, great. Article 7, this is the tax title revolving fund for $5,000. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'm assuming all in favor. Any opposed? Okay. Article 9, this is related to eligibility for retiree health insurance plans approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Did we do Article 8?
Article 8.
Oh, wait, thank you. Yeah, good. Sorry, I passed over that. Article 8, injured on duty fund. Is there a motion to approve Article 8?
I move we approve Article 8.
Second that.
Okay, any opposed? Great, Article 9, sorry, here we are. Article 9, is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve Article 9.
Okay.
Okay, who seconded it?
And Leanne.
Great. All right, all in favor, any opposed? Okay. Article 10, name change, Board of Selectmen to Select Board. Now, I believe, Anne, were you at the discussion last week?
I was.
Okay, so I think everybody was part of the discussion last week. I did want to check with you because I thought what I heard at one point from Don Lowe was that in his conversations with the town clerk, he thought that her budget line item that covers updates to the E-code might largely cover the expenses for this. Is that what everybody else heard?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I understood.
That is correct, Brian.
Oh, great. There you are, Jenny.
Yeah, I think she has a budget of about $1,700, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
And she estimates that all of the changes will fall within that budget. It may squeak outside of it, but then Bob Sikansky has offered to contribute his $300 stipend in the event that that happens.
Yep. Okay, so is there a motion to approve Article 10?
Motion to approve.
Second that.
Okay. Is there anybody opposed to Article 10? Okay, that is unanimously approved. We are going to pass over Article 11 because the planning board, Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is one of the ones that the planning board is going to consider next week.
Sorry, is that the light? Oh, the accessory apartment.
It was the
I know.
Article 11 accessory apartments.
Oh, there is a change, yes, to that one that the Erica felt the planning board would have no issue with.
But the Board of Selectmen didn't vote on Article 11, right? I thought.
I
Sorry.
wish I was at work because I have my cheat sheet
Here,
there.
hold on a second. Yeah, I wrote down that the Board of Selectmen waited on Article 11.
Although Erica thought that the planning board would have no issue, the planning board has never met to actually go over the lawyer's notes.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, if you're gonna vote on this on the next Thursday, then we can vote on it next Thursday. The temporary signs didn't have that issue, so we can vote on the temporary signs, Article 12.
I move we approve Article 12.
Second that.
Okay. Any opposed to approving Article 12? Okay, so that's approved. Article 13, I know, is definitely one that was passed over by this. Oh, wait, no, Article 13 was not. This is the outdoor lighting one.
The outdoor lighting one also had changes to it.
But from what I remember, actually somebody else can jump into, I think what happened was there was a discussion of whether to wait on rules and regs or to just approve as is. And I think it was approved as is.
You might be right.
If you
Again, I
scroll
wish I
down-
had my notes.
Scroll down
Sorry.
just a bit more and you'll see what the results were.
I'm sorry, Craig, what was that?
If you scroll down just a bit more, you can see what the selectmen said.
No, because
No.
this is the version that, this is the one that they were looking at last Thursday, so it doesn't have,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I'm doing the minutes after this meeting and we'll be revising by tomorrow. So just hasn't happened yet.
I was confused with the earlier one that said two-thirds majority, and it was 2 out of 3 who voted for it for the select board.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan,
Yeah, no,
I
I-
have some recollection that they ended up voting on this.
That's your memory too, Bob?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
After some spirited discussion.
Yeah, I think it was a 3-0 decision.
Yep. Okay, so is there a motion to approve Article 13?
I move we approve Article 13.
Second.
Okay, any opposed?
Nope.
Article 14, is there a motion to approve acceptance of Houghton Farm Lane?
I move we approve Article 14.
I'll second it.
Okay, any opposed to approval of Article 14? Now we're getting into the ones that we've sort of already voted on by approving the budget. So Article 15, security cameras, motion to approve.
I move we approve Article 15, the security camera system.
Second that.
Okay, any opposed? No. Article 16, is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve Article 16.
Second that.
Okay, any opposed to Article 16? No. Okay, Article 17 is the big fire truck. Approving.
I move.
Go ahead.
I move we approve Article 17, the big fire truck.
I second it.
Okay, any opposed?
Nope.
Great.
Do you get to write on it?
Sorry, what? Oh, do we get to write?
This is a joke, that's all.
I think we can influence it somehow.
That's an extra $25,000.
Yeah.
You could
Okay.
raffle off a ride for some kid.
The ambulance, Article 18.
I move we approve Article 18.
I second it.
Okay, any opposed? Great. Article 19 is the $115,000 dump truck. Is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve Article 19.
I second it.
Any opposed? Okay. Article 20, this is the plow equipment for the truck that's going to be purchased with Chapter 90 funds.
I move we approve Article 20, the plow and associated equipment.
I second it.
Okay, any opposed to Article 20? Okay, Article 21, the town building evaluation.
I move we approve Article 21, the town building evaluation.
I second it.
Any opposed? Nope. Article 22, the library driveway replacement.
I move we approve Article 22, the library driveway replacement.
I second it.
Any opposed? Article 23, Florence Sawyer school boiler.
I move we approve Article 23, the Florence Sawyer school boiler.
I second it.
Any opposed to that one? Okay, Article 24, Emerson School air duct cleaning.
I move we approve Article 24, the Emerson School air duct cleaning.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any opposed to Article 24? All right, Article 25.
I move we approve Article 25, smoke detector replacement in the school.
Second it.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, Article 26, Florence Sawyer school oil tank removal.
I move we approve Article 26, Florence
second it.
Sawyer school oil tank removal.
I'll second that.
Okay, any opposed? And good. So I don't think we vote on Article 27, do we, Jenny? No.
There's no space for advisory committee recommendation, so
Yeah,
no.
I don't think we do. Okay. Great. So then the very last thing that we have to do tonight is a couple of quick transfer requests. And Nanachka let me know that I believe we have about a $72,000 balance in the advisory reserve fund as of today. Okay. One sec. Can everybody see that folder?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to see if I open them, whether you'll still be able to see. Can you see the document I just opened?
Double click it.
No. No, all right. You know what? I'll just share natively. Sorry.
It opened on another screen, I assume.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have two transfers from the town treasurer. So one is in the amount of 1920, and it's for that education assistance based on actual expenses for this year. So as she says, she wasn't aware of this in time to budget for it last year. So is there a motion to approve the transfer request of 1920?
I move we
Second it.
Okay. Any opposed? All right, and then the second transfer request is, this is again, the tax title stuff, keeping up with the bills. So the amount requested is $6,720.05 to move forward with those foreclosure processes.
I
So-
move we approve this transfer request.
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you. Then we have oops. Can you all see that?
Yep.
So this is a transfer for legal bills in the amount of $5,511.27.
I move we approve that transfer.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any opposed to this transfer request? Okay, great. Now,
So,
Jenny,
Brian, if you might wait a moment. We're about 3 months before the end of the fiscal year, I think. How is our pile of dough in the advisory fund doing?
so what did we just approve? Roughly 10, 11,000, how much?
Let's
It was
see,
roughly 10 or 11,000 that we just
probably
did right now.
11,000. Yeah.
So now we're down to about 59,000
Ah,
after tonight's approvals, right, Nanachka,
Sure.
roughly?
okay.
Okay. Which is actually in better shape than we've been in prior years, because there have been years when we've actually had to put an article on the warrant to bump up our reserve fund for this fiscal year, but I don't think we have to do that this year.
You want me to
Yeah.
tell you how much we're over in snow and ice, or you want to save that for another day?
Oh, really?
It's like 175,000.
Wow. Um, oh, Jenny had to leave. Oh, and so did Bob. Okay. So Nanachka, is there anything that you can think of besides the planning that we haven't voted on tonight that we need to vote on?
Oh, I think we're in good shape.
Somebody could make a motion to approve the minutes of March 2nd, which were excellent as usual.
I'll move we approve the minutes from March 2nd.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Great, all right. So it's almost 8:30. We are not going to meet on Tuesday of next week. We will meet on Thursday, which is the 25th. Board of Selectmen start at 7 o'clock typically. If we do have transfers or anything that we need to deal with before that, I'll let you know. And if we need to jump on 15 minutes early, we can. All right. Thank you, everyone.
I move we end the meeting.
All right. Second. Thank you.
See you later.
Have a good night.
Good night.